And thank you so much for joining us today. We are very excited to be here to present on Form Follows Function, Implementing Good Design. My name is Danielle Enriquez, and I am the founder of the Data Insights Group, DIG, and the Business Intelligence Architect at the Division of Continuing Studies. I am delighted to be joined by my colleagues, Amy Purdy, Salesforce Administrator, Sinead Shea Garcia, User Support Specialist, and Barbara Rusin, who is the Assistant Director of Summer and Winter Sessions. All right, so similar to Andrew, we kind of took a page out of Andrew Page's book, and we are going with the what, how, and why. We kind of trimmed a few there because just for time, but we are going to be talking a little bit about what we built, and that is going to focus on the registration amendment or the appeals process that we built using both Form Assembly and Salesforce. Throughout today's brief talk, you'll get an opportunity to hear from Barbara Rusin, who is the Assistant Director of Summer and Winter Session and also our project stakeholder. And she's going to discuss the end product. Amy Purdy, who is our Salesforce Administrator, will describe our UX approach to the project. And then finally, Shea Garcia will introduce the methodology we employed to deliver good design. All right, with that, I'm going to pass the mic over to Barbara Rusin.
Thanks, Danielle. So let's start off by quickly putting some context around what we set out to accomplish. So we're looking to streamline our students' appeals process so that students' needs can be resolved as quick as possible. In addition to the priority goal, we also look to address satisfaction and resolution rates. So now that you know what we set out to accomplish, let's take a look at what was gained. So here are 3 efficiency gains to share. Our first efficiency example is around emails. All emails were automated, attachments can be easily added to emails, and we were also able to add additional attachments to records if needed. Our second efficiency cut out a whole step of the process. In our old system, we needed to create folders to process the work. So now we just click and go using dropdowns. And then our third efficiency is that the team was very satisfied. So this new approach takes out the manual work, and now staff receive alerts and notifications so that they know which ones to prioritize, thus resolving quickly. They are also satisfied because not only were they included, but they participated in the design of the product and the prototype test phase. We did a lot of testing in a sandbox environment. And as a result of that, the app or the application, right, went live earlier than we expected with only 1 week of additional testing. So we're real excited by that. And then after the application went live, our collaborative approach carried over into a change request model, and the development team remains very hands-on. So let me show you some snapshots of what this looks like. So here are 2 screenshots. On the left is the student-facing form, and on the right is the back end in Salesforce, where our summer session staff manages the process. So this process allows all of the data being collected on the forward-facing form to be streamlined and tracked in Salesforce, which includes workflow automations. An example of an automation is like a staff member will receive an alert when an end user, being the student, uploads a new document. So this automation functionality expedites our response time, it reduces staff work, all while increasing the student experience. So I have one more screen to show that will take us a little deeper. So earlier I mentioned that we wanted to score some efficiencies in regards to managing emails. So here's what this looks like. All emails are attached to a contact record. In the left picture, you can see inside the activity pane, there's a red box to show you that activity pane. Everything is right there in plain sight. The right side demonstrates the status values that assist us in managing each appeal. So now we don't need to create those folders and drag and drop files in the system. So these efficiencies assist us and scalability to future terms. So everything is already built in. All we need to do is just change the term dates. So now you're probably wondering how all this works. So let's take a look at the data to see if everything is working the way we intended. You can see here that we scored a big time savings in our 2019 process to our 2020 process. We saved 3.75 days per appeal. Just to give you some example, in 2019, summer session received 199 appeals. In summer 2020, which just ended, we received 318 appeals. So that was an additional 119 more appeals. Just looking at that increase alone, we saved 446 days from the prior year. So let's pull it all together. So in summary, what we accomplished was efficiencies in workflow with the use of the form, staff notifications, and the overall tracking of communications. A lot happens behind the scenes with the web-based form, right? So it creates that student record and electronically captures the form for that student. Students are also able to save a submission in progress and submit the form later. After a student submits the appeal, they will receive an automatic email response confirming their submission. The best part of this is that everything is automated. Regarding notifications, staff receive that system-generated notification when a new form is submitted or when a student updates their original submission with an additional attachment. This means that no one needs to check the fax machine or wait for the mail to be delivered, opened, sorted, and attached to the student. Our third big win is in the communication tracking. Emails can be sent while in the student record, and notes can be manually added to the record on the fly. For example, if a student calls the office, staff can access the record and document the phone call using a note feature. This allows for all forms of communication to be captured on the appeal. If there are follow-up tasks that are needed, they could be assigned so that we know the status at all times. So to accomplish this, we met a total of 8 times for 12 hours. So I know that's pretty crazy. Not a lot of time, in my opinion, to build something like this. But let's hear from Amy on the hows and how we got this all done.
Thank you, Barbara. So how did we build this? I will talk about how DIG collaborated with Barbara's team to produce the solutions and outcomes that Barbara just described. This slide shows how we approached our project. Our approach included these 5 elements which are highlighted: empathy, the process of defining the problem, ideating solutions, prototyping, and testing. I will now focus on a few of these elements. So the next slide shows how we diversified perspectives. And so the first thing that we did was to gather a multidisciplinary team. And this chart shows the range of roles that were involved. Communication was key to ensuring that the perspective of each team member was being heard. We also included student workers for their usability feedback, for their input on the language of the questions on the front-facing form, and for information that they thought would be important for this student end user. We had regular bi-weekly meetings, shared documents and feedback to keep everyone in the loop. And this empathetic approach carried through all stages of our work together. So defining the project was the most time intensive part of our work. We whiteboarded the current process in a full team meeting, and it was really a fun and informative way to kick off the process of defining the problem we were working on. And this particular slide we've included for 2 reasons. One, to show that we started with a very low-tech approach, just a sketch. And we also like the fact that the team is actually reflected in this sketch. We then transferred this sketch to a digital version. And this version was used in a meeting where team members, so we use this sketch in a meeting where the team members each identified, number one, what is currently working for each role, and number two, the pain points that each role had. So gathering feedback on what was currently working well and the pain points from each of the various perspectives enabled us to maintain this human-centered, user-centered approach as we defined our project goals and requirements. As I mentioned, most of our project time was spent defining the problem by understanding the current processes, what was working well, and especially on the pain points. And as Albert Einstein said, a well-defined problem is full of clues for a successful solution. So once we had our well-defined problem, we then began to ideate, to create blueprints for the path forward. This to-be process was based on addressing the pain points from the current state while including what was already working well. We distilled the business requirements and created solutions. And we then went on to prototype and to test and to fulfill the requirements that we had identified. And now Shay will discuss why the framework we used for this project resulted in success.
Thank you, Amy. So some of you may have heard or seen the tree swing story before. It is a great visual tool highlighting perception gaps, meaning endless perspectives and solutions. Sometimes a client could overstate what they want, and in result, requirements gathering are like misinterpreted and let engineers end up building crazy things. So if you can look at the slide, you can see there's like a couch, there's a roller coaster, there's like a rope, there's just a whole bunch of crazy things going on. And really all they wanted was just a tree swing. So some of you might have encountered this in real work situations or projects. Well, we are happy to tell you that design thinking offers us a better approach. So there are 5 modes of design thinking and action phases. And the first one is empathize. Second is define, ideate, prototype, and test. There's an arrow there which may signify that a testing was failed. And if you test something and it fails, you ideate again, and then you follow with the prototype and begin with new testing. So design thinking is a mindset that consists of 5 modes to better define the problem and provide a more collaborative and holistic solution. So we're actually in good company. This is just a list of few successful companies who have used design thinking as a methodology for many of their processes. So after this lecture series event, we will be happy to send you the slide presentation with the link so you can read more about their processes to success.
Sorry about that. I was trying to find my unmute. My bar was hiding on me. Thank you so much, Shay, for talking us through and the methodology. We are happy to answer any questions that you may have. Again, defining what the product was. If you have any questions about what we built in Salesforce and the Appeals project, how we went about it, our diversity, who was on it, how it really facilitates change management, and really adoption, which is key. And then finally, why we went with design thinking. It is a universal application. It is great to, use this approach for any size problem. And most importantly, you don't want to really design, a new system based on bad processes. So it really helps you rethink those processes when you're implementing design, and it's a very good user experience, tool. So again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for my colleagues for helping in this presentation. And please feel free to reach out to us with questions or drop your questions in the QA.